Morning guys, welcome back to the 52 Men of the Bible video series we're doing here at CVM Cymru. Please do remember, whenever you watch these videos, if you're not already, then please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also like the videos, comment on them, and if you want to be so bold, maybe even share them with your mates. These are hopefully resources that we can use to help us focus on the Bible and on men in the Bible who can help us. And we're at week 50, so there's only a couple more after this one. And this week we're looking at the Apostle Paul. An amazing guy. Don't quite know what to advise you in terms of reading the Bible this week. He wrote huge chunks of the New Testament, but maybe stick in Acts and read something about his testimony or his missionary journeys. Did 5 of them, so there's plenty of material in there. But yeah, read what you want about Paul. It's all good stuff, and then in a couple of minutes we'll take a look at his life and what we can learn from it. Okay, so as I said in the intro, we're looking at the Apostle Paul this week. He was quite literally a super apostle, and he was a church planter extraordinaire. So he did an incredible amount to advance the kingdom of God across the known world at that time. He died as a martyr around AD 65, but that was after a life completely given without reserve to the gospel cause. Now, we sometimes use the phrase about somebody that they are a force of nature. I remember talking to an evangelist that I know, and he was talking about his wife, and he called her a force of nature. He'd say she'd get up in the morning, come up with a brand new idea at breakfast, and by lunchtime there was a new ministry that had been birthed. You know, it was like literally idea, kick it around in her head, and then let's go for it. Now, I actually happen to think she was a force of nature, but we do sometimes use it a little bit glibly. But when it comes to Paul, I think we can really genuinely call him a force of nature. And he was a force of nature because the power of Christ had filled him to such a degree that it literally took over his whole being. And because of that, he was willing to go through being shipwrecked, being tortured, being imprisoned, suffering hardship, financial struggles, all sorts of stuff like that. I mean, he literally chose the wealth of the kingdom and what that looked like over anything that he could earn or achieve on a human level here on earth. And bear in mind, he was a very intelligent man. He had been a student under Gamaliel, one of the foremost rabbis of the time. And literally, this man had been groomed and coached to be the ultimate Jew, the ultimate leader within the Jewish community. Now, he had an obsessive personality. I think that's fair to say. If you read anything that he writes, you hear it. He literally he gets excited as he's speaking, and you can feel it building up and up and up and up and up and up, and he's getting it completely and utterly obsessed by what he's talking about when he's talking about Jesus. This man was an amazing ambassador for the kingdom. But it wasn't always like that. He was born in Tarshish, and he, as I say, he was trained and coached under Gamaliel. He came out as a super Jew, if you like, obsessive about the Jewish traditions, obsessive about the Jewish faith, and he became a persecutor of all the Jews that chose to follow Jesus. Now, an interesting fact is that a few weeks ago we looked at Stephen, didn't we? That incredible man who, even when he was being stoned, was sharing the gospel and praying for those who were killing him, that they would come to know Jesus. Well, a well-known fact is that Paul was standing towards the back of the crowd, holding the cloaks, the coats, if you like, of the people who were stoning Stephen. He would go over the whole area, the known world where Jews were, searching for members of the way, searching for those who loved Jesus, persecuting them, killing them, removing them. And then all of a sudden, he's on his way to do this now in Damascus. He's on the road to Damascus. Suddenly, a great shaft of light comes down from the heavens. And there's Jesus. And he says, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Not why are you persecuting the Jews? Not why are you persecuting the followers of the way? Why are you persecuting me? And it was Jesus who was speaking. And Paul had this dramatic conversion experience. And it's a well-known fact. We even talk about it today, don't we? Having a Damascus Road experience is an experience that transforms your life and changes your entire direction. And that is what happens to us when we meet Jesus. It might not feel in that moment like a Damascus Road experience, but it is. It is exactly that, because what it does is it turns our entire life around, and all the things that we've been giving our lives to become less. They become unimportant, and sometimes we abandon them altogether because what we are now passionate about, now what we're obsessive about, is following Jesus. And that's exactly what happened to the Apostle Paul. And all of that zeal and passion and obsessive desire to destroy the church and to protect the Jewish faith was all channeled into, now for me to live is Christ and to die is gain. It was all about Jesus at that point, and he was just one of the most incredible evangelists and missionaries that this world has ever seen. And the amazing thing was he could debate with the scholars and the philosophers famously in Athens, or he could speak to religious leaders or world leaders, and he could debate and he could share the gospel with them, but he could also share the gospel with a prison guard in Philippi. Didn't matter where you fitted on the spectrum. He knew how to communicate the gospel to you. He knew how to share the gospel in ways that would transform your lives. And he was so filled with the power of Christ and with the resurrection life of Christ. It's little wonder, is it, that we read of people just touching a handkerchief that he had used, and they were healed. What I want to say this week as I draw this to a close is that Paul was extraordinary, but he was an ordinary man who God made extraordinary. He had the power of Christ flowing through him. Every word he spoke had significance for the kingdom. He never stopped. He never gave up. He used all of his energy to proclaim the gospel and to turn the known world at that time to Jesus Christ. And he gave his life to making the lives of those around him better. He clocked up 13,000 miles in his lifetime. No mean feat at that time. 35 years in ministry, 5 missionary journeys, and he stayed at the churches that he planted. He bedded them in, he got them strong, and then he moved on when God told him to. And eventually he was captured, he was martyred for his faith. We can be that force of nature. That's available to all of us. But it takes dedication, it takes sacrifice, and it takes us choosing not to demand the comforts and the wealth of this world, but actually to say, again, as I've said so many times during these videos, dyma fi, anfon fi, here am I, send me. So let Paul be that encouragement to you and to me. And guys, as you go into this coming week, I just pray that we would capture a vision of what Jesus wants to do with our lives, whatever that looks like. Have a great week. I look forward to seeing you again for the penultimate one next week.